to the messages that I've been tuning in. So I'm going to start with the Khalil Gibran one. I have my own copy of The Prophet, but who knows where it is because I couldn't find it this morning. So I had to look it up. So I'm going to read from my phone. This is the chapter of The Prophet called On Joy and Sorrow. And every time when I was thinking about us gathering today, there's a line from this that kept on coming back to me. So I may not read the whole chapter, but I'll at least read till I get to that line. Then a woman said, "Speak to us of joy and sorrow." And he answered, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked. And the selfsame well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow, which has given you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. Let's see how much. Oh, this is a short chapter, so I'll just finish it. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. Verily, you're suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at a standstill and balance. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver, needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall. So some of the people who are gathered, who will be here for the replay, and then some of you who are gathered here today, I know have had losses either in the last few weeks or in the last few months. And this time when we're still getting into the period in the Northern Hemisphere of there being less light is also this turning internal time of, to me, feels the time to also honor losses and grief. And if you have no grief or losses right now, then we are so happy for you, because that is so wonderful for you. And if you are experiencing losses and grief, then know that the rest of us are seeing you and being here with you. And I'll also note, I'm not going to go deep into my personal life, but my mother-in-law passed away last week, and it was both expected but unexpected. She had a decade of poor health. So in that way it was inevitable, but and I haven't really been sharing about it online because it's my husband's personal business, so I'm not sharing until he shares, really. But I want to mention that to know it's like, so I'm 1 foot deeply in the process of this, and so many other people I've interacted with over the last few weeks have had people who they're feeling the depths of despair, they're feeling suicidal, or they've lost someone unexpectedly recently. And so all of those are honoring that even on our days where we feel most alive, we may be touched with someone who is passing on to the other side. And I was looking out at the trees this morning in my yard and noticing how the way the sun hit the branches and with the angle of the light, there were so many of them that there's only almost like a silver lining or a golden lining on some of the branches, but most of the tree is in darkness. And so as I was gazing up and looking and asking, okay, so what does this mean for us and being cradled by the trees, and what is the message about that? And one of the ways to look at it is that that even if you feel that so much of your experience is in the darkness right now, or the dark side of the moon, or the dark side of the mountain, there are still places where the sunlight can reach you and can give you this golden etching, this golden lining of one branch or two branches. Okay. I'm gonna have us do a few minutes of deep breathing together, and you can close your eyes if you want, keep them open if you want. I tend to close mine off and on, as you can see, and we'll see if there are things in your body you need to feel, things in your body that you want to receive. Because one of the things that I feel really called to share is whether or not you're going through grief immediately in this time frame. This is a time when you can deepen your ability, deepen your receptivity to receiving, to surrendering, to letting life hold you, letting life fill in the hollows, the cracks, the crannies. So taking in a deep breath in through your nose, letting it flow into your body, noticing if there's a place where your breath really wants to flow to. And exhaling out whenever you're ready. With your next inhale, taking in that breath, picturing that the breath is flowing past your torso, out to your extremities, whether it's flowing to your arms and your hands, to your legs and to your toes. Picturing that breath is bringing in the oxygen so it can course into your bloodstream, into all your veins and your arteries in your body. And releasing with an exhale whenever you're ready. With your next deep breath, you're calling in all of your resources, all of your attention, all of your awareness, all of your energy into this present moment. And you're welcome to only be as present as you feel physically comfortable in the moment. So sometimes with painful moments and grief, it can feel like there's a heaviness sitting right on top of your heart. So whatever ability that you're able to be present is okay. It's good enough. And with an exhale, anything that's not yours to hold on to, anything that's not your responsibility, and getting the nudge to say most things are not your responsibility. Okay, fine. I guess I could give that up. I think we all get so used to, when you're growing up, whether it's siblings you have to care for, or looking out for a friend, or looking out for your parent. I mean, we're just trained so much to look out for others, and that is beautiful. And it can get to the point where you've spent so much of your life doing for others, looking out for others, that you're overextending, you're overdoing for all of these others around you. And it could be over for those of you who work in business or work in a job too. There's an overextending that perhaps you're also doing for clients, for coworkers, for it's probably not happening as much in work, because I feel like they may draw it out of you, so you may have to do more putting up of boundaries there. But in business, it can be quite easy, especially if you're in the personal development, therapy, healing, coaching world, to just give, because it's a little bit expected. And you can you can ease up on some of that giving for right now. You can let there be a space between what you give for the person to receive. I'm getting this sense of if you gave someone something and then right away you just pile on the next thing and the next and the next, they have their arms are overflowing and they're not having any room to accept the first thing. Whew, okay. So yes, all of you who work in a one-to-one capacity, so ask yourself and put out the question for the next few weeks, can you give a 5-second lag time, a 5%? I'm going to let them fill in the gap. I'm going to let them sit with whatever I said. I'm going to let them have more of their own experience before you come in to give the next thing. And nothing that you've done thus far was wrong in terms of how you were serving them. It was excellent. And this is a time when you can be leaning back, relaxing, and knowing that whatever you give is enough. You don't have to give 5 more things on top of that. And being cradled by the trees and anything else that you want to cradle you. If you have a chair that's so lovely, it makes me wish I had one of those. I think they're called Papasan chairs that are like circular shaped. And you can just sink into it, and it's like a cocoon. That kind of relaxation. And I'm getting this nudge of what if every day for the next 2 weeks or months, you give yourself a time where you flop down on the couch and you flop down on your bed and you have that whole like flopping down, letting everything go, feeling whoo. And you know, when you flop down on your bed, none of you here are like, is this mattress going to hold me? Is the bed frame going to break? No, it's strong enough. And that practice is also what life is trying to say to you. Whew, this is giving me all the tingles now. You can flop down on the bed of life, and that mattress will support you. That mattress will hold you. You're allowed to fully relax, to fully let go. And you don't have to think, oh, but I have to hold on to this one thing, because if I don't, it won't happen. You don't have to hold on. You can flop down on the mattress, on the chair, on the couch, and let yourself fully relax. And of course, we know you're not going to stay there for 8 days and just be like, life is taking care of me. I've been on this couch for 8 days. Like you're probably in an hour or a night, you'll get up again, you'll go do something. But this practice is as much as you can let yourself do this for the next couple weeks. Let yourself flop down and just feel that relaxation, feel the unfurling of doing, of tension, of attending to things, and feel that being supported. And hey, there might be one of you that's like, actually, I need to get a new mattress. Awesome. Let that be confirmation. Hey, it was time for an upgrade of your support system. It was time for you to feel more taken care of. And if there's anything else to say about this? Sense of when you're laying on this mattress and maybe your pet comes over, if you have a pet, and that's sweet and cozy, they cuddle with you. And then sometimes the question that comes up is, oh, but what about so and so that I need to help, or so and so that needs this? And just imagine that you're energetically inviting them to cuddle up with you on this mattress, like a cat, like a dog, like whatever animal you could have, a potbelly pig or a ferret or whatnot, or this person. They're allowed to cuddle up there with you, and And you don't have to do anything. They're allowed to come into your space and cuddle up there with you. And this may be, if any of you are having business questions, I know there's one that's submitted, or work or income questions, this feels, or relationship too, like romantic relationship. This feels like related to that of, can you imagine that you're laying in a place of surrender and support, and those who want to be around you, they can come, and there's space in this bed for them to cuddle up on the corner, and it's so easy. It's so effortless. Okay. All right. With your next inhale, calling to you all the resources you need, all the awareness. In a moment, I'm going to start taking questions. So if you need to wiggle your shoulders or your toes or your nose to bring yourself back somewhat to opening your eyes, to being in this place and time, you can do that. And if you want to ask a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand. If you don't want to talk out loud, you can always put it in the chat. Let's see, there's one thing in the chat. Oh, Emily, I want to say thank you for sharing that. So Emily's saying she's feeling grief right now from losing her mom, even though she passed 10 years ago. I had this experience March of this year where I realized I hadn't fully grieved my mom's passing, and it was 10 years this fall. And I thought, how did I not do this? Like, how did I not essentially finish this unfinished grief in 10 years? And so through working over the past few months with a few different people and just working with myself, processing that grief and feeling it, what I felt also was that in the time that it happened, there was only so much I could feel and deal with. And it was my way of protecting myself and being like, this is what I can handle. And now I'm at the space where I could handle more of it and really let it move through me. And so maybe that's true for you, Emily, of you're in a place now where you can grieve and feel it and let it move through you and be in a way that it wasn't available to you 6 years ago. Oh, this is funny. Okay. And you didn't ask me to see if I could connect with your mom, but I feel like she's trying to show me something. I don't really know if I can put it into words, but I'll just describe what I'm seeing. She feels like, so she's there showing me, I don't know if it's a clipboard or like a binder of things to do. And it's kind of like she's showing me, you've done so much and you're getting ready to do new things. And she wants to be supportive of you in the new things that you're doing. And that's also why you're dealing with the grief anew, is it's a way of inviting in the relationship with her in a deeper way than you could experience before. So, and let me just frame that. So my experience is that when people pass on, it's not that you're gone forever, and that you can still have a relationship with that person. And sometimes the relationship's a lot better. My relationship with my mother-in-law feels so much better now. She just seems really happy. And she wasn't always really happy when she was here. And so now I just feel all the love and the happiness from her. And so even though I'm sad sometimes, I actually feel like our relationship is so much better just in the last week with her being on the other side. And so your mom, even though the grief is coming up and it's this way of, I don't exactly know how it's happening for you, Emily, whether it's a feeling of loss or missing her, exactly how the grief feels. And she wants to be engaged with you in your life in a new way. Even though she's not physically here, she still has a connection to you. And you're welcome. If you want to unmute, you can, or if you want to unmute later, great. I don't know if you want to speak to this, but you can if
Thank
you want to. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's been hard lately. So I needed this.
Mm, good. I'm glad we're here for you. Is there anything I'm feeling called to ask you if there's anything that you really loved about this time of year with your mom? Like it almost feels like there's some kind of tradition that you two used to have that was super
Yeah.
special.
Um, we always made cookies together, pretty standard, but we would take them to neighbors,
Aw.
deliver them. And so that was always a thing. It was always busy and chaotic. Um, but just like fun. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm an only child too, so like, it was just me. Like there were no siblings, so it was just me and my parents. Um, so yeah, it was always just she always made, and I think this is like mothers in general for the most part, like she just made holidays special. Birthdays were special. Like she would give me gifts for sweetest day, like little things like that. And so yeah, she just always made them special and fun. And I'm actually home right now. So
Oh,
that's why
wow.
a lot of this is
Yeah.
coming up for me because I'm here. So
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. I was wondering because I know, is this your second year traveling? Is that right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're home. And are there any things that she does where you're like, oh, that's a sign from mom? Because I get the feeling she's like, I'm leaving you gifts, or I would like to leave you gifts. So let's decide, like, how do you know it's a gift from me?
Yeah, it's funny because like so I'm here, my partner's with me and he was just like, does this house have spirits? He's like, it's just always talking. Like there's just always noise. And I'm like, yeah, you forget when you're not here. But like we've literally stayed in over 30 different homes since we've been traveling. No other home makes noises like this one. Like,
Wow.
so there's so many spirits here because it's an 1820s log cabin. There's just so many spirits here. So many family members who've passed on and stuff. But like I don't know. I noticed something the other day and like there's just been a few times where like last night I unplugged the Christmas lights and I walked away and my partner was getting the dog ready to go outside and all of a sudden they just lit up. I was like, I just unplugged those. Did you plug those back in? He goes, no, I'm getting the dog. Like he wasn't
Oh,
even near,
wow.
like they weren't even standing near the outlet and they just turned back on.
Wow. That's
So
cool.
yeah.
This is funny. So I love that you saw that. Your mom is showing me she wants to gather all the other spirits there, almost to be like, listen, some of this is excessive. Like, do we really need to all be doing this? And I
Yeah.
don't know if your mom was kind of like an organizer type, but I feel like she's like, let's get some things in order.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I get the feeling that she's kind of like wanting to corral and be like, okay, do we need to move some of this on? And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's something that you might feel called to do. This feels separate from the relationship with your mom, but you may be called to do some energy work with your house, or like a clearing, or like, thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to move on. Like, we
Yeah.
don't really need you here
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you really like all the busyness, but it can sometimes also be disruptive too.
Yeah. It's so interesting because like right before I joined this call, I heard someone pull the driveway and the door open and shut. And I looked at the window and like nobody's there. It's
Yeah.
just there's so much of that, like so much of that. Um,
Yeah.
like I will be like I'll literally hear someone come upstairs and I'll walk in there thinking it's my dad and nobody's there. He's like not
Yes. Right.
it's
That's
so
the kind of
interesting.
that's the kind of thing that, so when I was a kid, I had my gift, but things like that drove me crazy. And I was like, I'm shutting it off. I do not want to deal with this. So I have a very low tolerance for,
You know, I
for
haven't been here
being
for,
disrupted.
yeah, I haven't been here for too long. And so right now it feels like, oh, I forgot all these spirits were here. Like it's kind of comforting because I know some of them are familiar spirits, like my grandma and my aunt probably. But I know some are also unfamiliar who lived in this house before, we owned it kind of a thing. And so it's been fun hearing it, but it may get to the point where I'm like, okay, guys, that's enough.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, anything else that you want to share or ask, or do you feel ready for me to move on? How do you feel?
I feel good. I needed that. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. And if you want to make some cookies, I'm sure your mom will be happy about that. But yeah, oh yeah, one final thing I'll say is if you and your mom don't already have a thing where you're like, oh, when I see this or this happens, then that feels like it's from her, then you're welcome to put it out there and start being receptive to what comes up. Because I think that might be nice if that feels good to you. Okay. I'm going to go in between live and pre-submitted. So one more person who's here, if you want to share a question or want to look into it. Okay, Lizelle has a question she can ask out loud if the work noise. Sure. And if the work noise is too much, that's okay. We can just modify. You could always put it in the chat. Do you want to unmute and ask?
Yeah, and I also want to honor that, is it Danica? She wrote in a question before mine.
Oh, did I miss that? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm big on sequence.
Yes, me too. Thank you. Okay, Danica. All right. What messages do my spirit guides, I'm getting warm, have for me regarding my business? All right. And Danica, do you want to say anything else? I know you put your question, but I want to give you an opportunity to unmute if you want to use your voice in the room. Let's let your voice be in the room if you're comfortable with that.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, my intention behind this is really just out of curiosity. Um, I have been getting what I feel like are a lot of messages from animals. And I honestly looked at your email with your like ask a question like this, and I was like, oh, I like that. So I'm just going to ask that. It was totally just in the moment, not pre-planned anything. I guess what I will share with you, one thing to give you background on that, if it's useful. Something that was really cool is I saw an owl. Okay. Visualizing, and it was a small owl that was like rainbow colored, like a parrot. And so I remember I was very puzzled, like I've never seen an owl that looked like this. I was being very literal. Then like the next day, I literally saw this rainbow colored owl in my Facebook feed. Like I took a picture of it because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, okay, then what is this about? So there's that. And then something else that you were just saying to Emily, I wrote it down. How will I know this is a sign from you? Because I feel like that is very significant. I hope I'm not like all over the place. My mind tends to do that. I'm here, I'm there, I'm here, trying to put it all together. But ultimately, business-wise, it's like I have all these ideas, but it just feels like I don't know if it's completely clear yet. I mean, maybe a better question is like, yeah, what I just feel like that is my ultimate question. What is the message, or do they have a message from my spirit guides?
Yes, yes, yes. Great question. And Emily noted that owls are or when she sees owls, that makes her
Oh my
think of her
God.
mom. This is one of the things that makes me so excited. This happened last time on the call, and when I've done live
Oh,
parties, one of the last live parties I did, people were like, "Did you give a message for me to someone else?" And I was like, "No, actually, what happens is it's like the same people come together who have these overlapping connections, and then we all get to be like, whoa." And I'm amazed at this rainbow owl. So, okay, there's a few things I'm getting, and then I'll see where it's going to go. So first, I get this sense of things lining up, which is good. And almost like all the the song they give me is oh gosh, what is that? Like the little drummer boy when it's like, come, they told me, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. So like this whole drum beat feeling, and kind of like all these things lining up and getting into place. So there's that energy around your business of things lining up, things coming into place, things feeling very much like a progression and a procession in with the drum beat. So to me, that also feels very like rhythmic and following a pattern. And so there's that. And then the owl. So there's a few things with this owl. I'll get to the owl itself, I think, in a minute. But one of the first things I want to say is you're getting an invitation to work with your perception in a way that is very beneficial to you and exciting. So, for example, I will sometimes get a vision in a meditation or a dream or something, and then the next day I see the thing. And so your consciousness, your awareness is previewing things for you before they happen. So that's one way that this is occurring. What I'm also called to tell you is it can work both ways. If there are things that you would like to happen, then okay. Then you want to be developing a practice where you're previewing, visualizing them so that you can start seeing them happening. Does that make sense?
yeah. And I just have to say, totally off topic here, but yes, that does make sense. But then I'm looking at what Emily said, and I'm like, oh my God, the owl was the sign of her mom.
Which is cool because Emily hadn't said it, but now it's like, and I'm like, did her mom make sure that you were here and she was here and all of this? Like, it's super cool. And
And I
I
wasn't gonna say that. Like again, that was literally right in the moment. I did not come on like I'm gonna talk about I was not gonna say that. That just spontaneously came out. So
I love it. I love it. That's so good. So okay, you can play around with perception. Also, the size of the owl can be manipulated, is not the word. It can be changed. So if you want to imagine that this owl is this helpful messenger for you, or this helpful guide, or whatever relationship you want to have with it, sometimes it's helpful to have a creature who's a small little owl. However, an owl can also be big, grow in size. I mean, it's a magical owl, so it can metamorphosize to grow bigger when the situation warrants that. So I don't know all of the reasons why I'm being asked to tell you that, but you, in your relationship with this owl, can either watch, does the owl change in size when certain things happen? Yeah, okay. I guess that's part of it. So you can play around with it if you want. Kind of like am I getting hotter or am I getting colder with the owl? So you could like if something comes up and you're like, do I move into this direction with my business? And you could just give yourself a moment to close your eyes and see the owl and be like, okay, is the owl, thimble size or grape size, or is the owl like a Volkswagen bug size? And that's like a hotter or a colder or a yes or a no. Like, how much energy should you put into that thing that you're working on? Maybe it's like a workshop. Well, if you look and the owl is the size, like a regular owl size, okay, put in a regular amount of energy. But then this other thing, which to me feels like, I don't know if you're going to do, if this is business related or personal, but it feels like swimming at the ocean. So I don't know if that's a retreat or more like lounging time or more time swimming, but it's like maybe you put a decent amount, like an average amount of time into workshops, but then this swimming in the ocean thing feels like, ooh, the owl's a lot bigger for that. Like it's as big as a table, or maybe not. Maybe you're like, no, I've got enough swimming, and then the owl shrinks to the size of a grapefruit. This is just one way to play around with it. Let me see if there's any. It's showing me it's like bopping along with its head, like dancing to that song. Tequila. I don't know how you feel about that song, but I feel like it is a fun song. And maybe that's the whole parrot vibe with it too. So I feel like this owl, in addition to being a wise creature, also is very happy to engage in a way that is playful and that feels supportive for you to be a consistent guiding force. Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's all I have for right now. Does that give you some information to work with? Does that feel clear?
Yeah, and I see that Emily hopped off, but I wanted to comment on the size real quick because that's what kind of threw me off in the vision. Because like I said, I've never seen a rainbow colored owl, but also how tiny he was. And I told you it showed up on my feed and I couldn't believe it. I took a picture of it. So I want to show it to you all. And I have no
Yes.
idea if you can see this, but can you
I'm
see
gonna
him?
make you bigger. I'm gonna try and make you bigger. Oh my gosh,
Isn't
that
he
is
cute?
adorable. Mhm.
And I was like, is this real? Because I've never seen an owl that looked like this
No.
ever. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, Lizelle's saying AI. I love it. I'm gonna move on to a submitted question super fast, and then hold on. I'm feeling the pull. All right, Lizelle, I'm gonna go to you next, and then I'll do submitted question.
Okay, and I do have some really loud noise that may pop in.
Okay.
Um, so this is around my partner who's old and has a long history of heart crises, physical.
Yeah.
And has long just like, this is all borrowed time, is having more heart trouble right now that's impacting both of us because the confidence that we might have another miracle of 10 or 20 years together. I'm 75, he's 80. Is like, no, we don't really know what we have. So my first question, which I know these things can't be answered, is like, how long do we have? So, but the sort of the more process question is, how do I, because this, how do I make plans when I don't know if at any moment he might be in the hospital again, or he might be gone, while at the same time knowing that I could be gone. Somebody could drive into me, or I could drop dead for some reason. You know, it's just,
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't want to cut you off. Do you want to ask anything? Do you want to say more?
I don't think so. I'm really good at coming into the moment, and I really, really like planning. So,
Mhm.
so I mean, I keep coming to this moment, and this is what we have, and we both acknowledge it, and we love our time together. And there's this cloud that we didn't feel so much before.
Yeah.
And back
And
to
the
the
cloud,
planning, because I'm so excited. I just came through the slumber party thing, and it really lit up a lot of stuff for me, and then I stop.
Mm,
So
yeah. Thank you for sharing. And thank you. I'm going to share just first off, one of the things I love about you already is your aliveness, your zest for life, your excitement. I don't know if anyone else can feel it, but it just brings me so much joy.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so speak to what I see and keep on talking until we have something that feels helpful. So what I get is he is not a rickety staircase, but or however, he's almost more like a immediately when you talk about him, I see a beautiful wooden bookcase, really quality solid wood, but it's wobbly. And it makes me think about when you have a lovely piece of furniture, but it's got that like wiggle. So you never know, like kind of like you said, you never know what's going to happen next because there's the wiggle. And you don't want to put too much on it because it can only hold so much. And you don't know how long the bookcase is going to last. And yet it's kind of, I don't want to use the word antique because it almost has the wrong connotation here. It's a valuable quality bookcase that has also had some life, and yeah, so it's got a little wobble to it. So a few things to talk about the bookcase first. As I already said, you don't want to put too much on this bookcase because you don't know like how much it can hold. And also, are there ways that you can stabilize or add more structure to the bookcase? I also get the visual of like when you go to a restaurant and the table wobbles and you're thinking, well, the restaurant owner really needs to fix this, but you know, they're not going to fix it like while you're there at dinner. So then you just fold up a napkin and you put it under the table so it doesn't wobble. So some of the fixes are going to be like that. They're going to feel like it's not perfect, but we put napkins under the thing, and does it look pretty? No. Does the table wobble now? No. So win-win. So some of it is that of this whole, are there things that you can do that make the moments better, even if they don't look great, but it gets rid of the wobble? Okay, so I'm going to spend more time on this because what it feels like is the more that you two can get rid of the wobble, the better your relationship can feel and the better your life will feel. So I'm going to speak in wooden bookcase and wooden furniture analogies. And even though I only know so much about those, but it's like, can you oil up the wood so that it's not losing its quality? Can you put some extra nails in there, or put it in a position where there's other structures around it. Like if the wooden bookcase is in the middle of the room, it's more vulnerable than if it's in a corner where there's walls supporting it. And now I know all of these things you might not have answers to right away. So some of this is just being open to and having an awareness of that. Okay. And I'm getting the information in. So even though I got this visual about your partner and or your partner's health or how you relate to them, it's also similar for your work that you do in the world because of the external circumstances of your life. And no matter what, in every moment, what we're loving is this is a beautiful quality wooden bookcase that anyone walking, like if you don't touch it, you don't actually know that there's a wobble there. And so, yeah, this is giving me goosebumps. So there's a funny thing sometimes, especially in online business, where it's like appearances are not always what reality is. And so with this bookcase, how do I put it? As long as you can plan knowing the bookcase is going to have some wobble and you need to work with that, it feels that you can love what is, as they say. You can be in the moment. The bookcase can have its full utility and capacity and be this beautiful wooden bookcase. Because I mean, look, we're not talking about an IKEA bookcase. Those things are going to wobble, and then everybody's like, well, just get rid of it because it's particle board. This is solid wood, and the quality there is not diminished by the fact that there's a wobble to it. I'm going to see if there's anything else I can say about that. In my heart, or what I receive, I feel like you have more time together, and any of the uncertainties and the fear and the anxiety can almost create more health problems in a way. Like you don't want to add more stress to it. And I know I'm a bit asking a tall order, like don't stress about it. However, it does feel like there can be more time, as long as, you know, back to this wobbliness. If you take a wobbly bookcase and you stack it full of 20 textbooks and somebody's bumping into it every day because it's not arranged in a great place, then it's going to wear down faster. And so that's part of this too, is like, what are the structures that allow the preservation of it and honor that, yeah, there is a little bit of structural weaknesses there. And that even with a structural weakness, you can have a long life. Something can be of high quality and highly loved and highly valued. And it's okay to have other structures to support a structural weakness.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I jotted down, quality is not diminished by the wobble. That was like, that just like got it with my relationship with him, with my relationship with my work. Yeah. So thank you.
Oh, good. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to tune into, so an anonymous, actually the anonymous one I'll come back to. First, there was Ellen, who I think I can get through this one quickly. Her question was a little bit big, but the answer I love when I get an answer. This does happen quite a lot, actually, that can be applicable to more than one area, kind of like for Lizelle. So Ellen was wondering, will she have a love life? Again, the success of her coaching business, writing a book, launching a podcast. Like, she was concerned when she sent this to me, because she was like, this is not one question. This is kind of like 4 questions all in one. And I said, hey, that's okay. Ask what you ask, and we'll see what comes up. So, so for her, I'm going to share it, and she'll hear the replay later. But I also know, and maybe some of you know this, similar to other group settings, it's like when someone else gets a message, even if your circumstance is not the same, if the message feels good for you, take that message in, because it can be for you. It can feed you. It can serve you. It can cradle you in the tree's arms, in the tree's branches. So first off, Ellen, you can believe that lightning strikes twice. Heck, some people have been hit by lightning. I don't even know how many times, but there are people or trees who've been hit by lightning numerous times. So believe, first off, that if lightning can strike once, it can strike again. So if you've had a love life once, you can easily have a love life again. Lightning can strike again for you. It can happen. So that's first off, the belief. And then the next thing that I get is this lovely visual of 8 cups. And I know there is a card in tarot called the 8 of Cups, although I feel that what I'm going to share is different from that meaning. So the visual I get is where there's a cup and then another cup, and the one overflows into the next. And it's kind of like a fountain where there's many, many cups, but there's one first and then others. Or like when people do that champagne tower and then pour it into the one and it pours into the others. This is the visual that I get. And the idea, Ellen, is that you pick one cup that you want filled first, that you want filled the most. It may be love, because that's what you started with in your question, but I don't know. And what I see is that when you fill up this one cup to fullness, to overflowing, what happens as a natural effect is this overflow then goes into the next cup, which goes into the next, which goes into the next. Now, sometimes in life, you got to work on multiple things simultaneously or multitask. And this for you does not feel like that time. This is a very clear message of focus on that one thing that you really want the most. That it like, if you had to say, this has to happen within 3 months or 6 months, what is that thing? Focus on that. Because you doing that is going to get things so much in flow. There will be overflow, and it will pour from one cup to the next, and it will be delightful. And inherently in this, there's something, let's say you started with love, there's something about this new love relationship that feels like, well, it'll impact your book, or it'll impact your podcast, or or let's say you start with the podcast. There's something about the podcast. Hey, maybe you'll meet a guest, and oh my gosh, whoever met their love interest on a podcast? I don't know, but maybe y'all could be the first. It probably has happened before. That would actually be kind of a funny show too, of like a matchmaking podcast show. Anyway, side note for anybody who needs a podcast idea. Yeah, so, and it might not be that literal of like you do the one thing and it clearly overflows into the next. However, in your life, with the fullness of your heart and the fullness of like that juiciness and zest for life, that's what is going to happen. You fill one cup and the others start flowing. Okay, and since she's not here, I'm not gonna ask if that was good enough because it was good enough. Okay, is there anyone else here who, okay, let me go to the chat and see, did anybody ask a question? And, okay, Candace. And I don't know if she, oh yeah, there you are. If you wanna unmute and ask, I'm gonna read out what you wrote here. You don't have to unmute though if you don't want to, but, so Candace is curious if there's messages for her. You give out a lot of healing and helping to clients. Thank you. And they get clarity and relief. And you're wondering if there's something you need to hear. Do you want to say anything else to us?
Well, there was one thing I wanted to say actually to Lizelle. When you were talking about her and you said, oh, I feel like you're such, an adventurous person. You have this energy. Lizelle, your face just lit up like with the biggest smile. And I thought, gosh, like if you could, I know the years seem short, what's left, but like if you could if you and your husband could live with that smile, that joy, that smile that popped on your face. I just was going to say that it was so beautiful when she said that. And that smile you had was gorgeous. So anyway, that was just a little side note. But anyway, no, I just didn't know what to expect coming into the call, but I'm grateful to be here. And I have a lot of things going on in my life, both with business and personal, and family and whatnot. But I guess there's not a specific intention I can give, except that it is feeling a bit overwhelming with all the things I have going on. And so if there's any message of finding that center again in myself, or that solidarity to like, okay, I do a lot of readings for people and everything. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a situation where like somebody can speak to me. And so I guess that's what I'm like, yes. So thank you. Yeah.
Yay, you're welcome. Yay. And Patty Lee, I saw your question. I think we'll have time too. Okay. All right. So thank you for asking. So first, I already said this, but I want to highlight it again. I just get all this celebration for the work that you're doing, Candace, and the way that you support people, the way that you help them with healing. And I do feel this whole there's like a classic Italian statue where it's this maiden with this big, I don't know what you call it, pitcher urn, but it's like this long or something, and she's pouring from it. So that's the visual that I'm getting for you. I feel like there is a tarot card that has that visual on it too. And let me see what else. So, celebration of what you do, acknowledgement that thank you for coming to receive for yourself. And okay, sometimes when I say things that feel very pointed, it makes me a little bit emotional. So I hope that this doesn't feel like like a judgy thing to say, because I never mean it to be judgy, but they show me like a checklist and this impression of like, you don't have to treat receiving like it's a checklist. Like, oh, I did this for them. Now it's time for self-care. Yep, check that off the list. So how can it be not checklist but still gets done? I'm going to ask that question. So I'm getting a visual of two things. You sitting near the water, but I'm also getting this visual that I sometimes see when people have loss that they haven't grieved over, or like disappointment. So it's like you're letting your tears fall in the water and feeling a little bit melancholy and like just letting the disappointment wash away. Yeah, okay. So it might seem counterintuitive. Thanks, Lizelle. But you feeling disappointment, letting yourself what might feel like have a pity party is self-care if that's what you need. So yeah, whoo, goodness, I'm feeling lots of waves of this. So it feels like there are either a time period in your life or a venture that you did or interest, I don't know, it's maybe multiple things where every time you look at it, you're like, what a disappointment, and not this and that, and I did this and this happened, and it makes you really sad. Or it might also make you kind of have a bitterness in your mouth. I'm not exactly sure how it feels for you right now, but I do feel like the best self-care you could do is let yourself feel that disappointment, let it flow through you, let it be seen and acknowledged. And even if there's a part of you that's like, well, that's so petty that I feel disappointed and a more evolved person would whatever. It's like, no, like a more evolved person would let you feel what you feel. And even if it feels like it's petty that you're having a pity party, it's okay, because this is what needs to be felt right now. And that sometimes the self-care is of the more somber variety. But that's okay. All right, I'm gonna see if there's anything else. Is any of this ringing true for you? Like, can you think of something that was disappointing?
I mean, in my personal relationship with my spouse, yeah, something recently happened that was very disappointing to me, and that I felt very, and I'm having a hard time, like, saying, like, where should my emotions go with it, you know? Like,
Right, yeah.
yeah.
I feel like in the short run, at least in your own personal experience, let those emotions go where they go, which might mean taking a rage walk in the woods. You know, not hopefully you're going to scare people or like they come across you and you're screaming and raging. But so some of the time it might be a raging, some of the time it might be a crying. I don't know with your partner yet. One of the reasons I was clarifying by yourself is it almost feels like letting all those different emotions be experienced so that it's almost like the water runs clean and you see how you actually, like, what's your baseline about it after you rage, you cry, you're disappointed, blah, blah, blah. Like it might need 7 to 10 days of just having time every day where you're like, and how do I feel today with this disappointing shit show? And then letting it all be what it is. And then noticing the next day, okay, how do I feel today about it? And it seems that over time, you know, like water, it's like after it rushes out, then there's this settling, and you can, to me, it feels like you'll have peace in your heart and clarity. You might still have some disappointment, but you'll at least kind of understand this is your assessment of the situation.
Yeah, that actually, when you said that just letting myself be like, okay, today what are my emotions, and tomorrow, okay, well, what are my emotions today? Yeah, that feels really good actually, because when you help people direct them through their problems, and then you have a problem and you're like, but I'm not supposed to have these problems, you know what I mean, or whatever, like, but I need to go through the problem in a healthy way. And so just letting it be like, whatever emotions come, that feels good. Like maybe I need to let myself have the permission to do that. So yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I love that. And I don't know how much of whatever's going on involves conversations with the two of you, but I think you're in your full right. Like what I also feel like I'm seeing with this is you have the right to be like, I'm not giving you an answer, or I'm not telling you, or I'm mad today. I might not be mad tomorrow, but whatever, like you helped create this situation. So I kind of don't owe you anything in this moment. I'm a little bit speaking with strong, like, you know, of course you meet the situation however you meet it. But I kind of feel like your first dedication is to your own self. And if they want answers, they're just going to have to wait. Or if they're expecting a certain like reaction or way for the relationship, then that's fine. They can wait.
Okay. Yeah, that resonates.
Oh, good.
Thank
Awesome. You're welcome. All right, I am going to ask a pre-submitted question, and then Patty Lee, I should be able to get to you. Okay, I'm going to take some water too. All right, so what messages do my soul guides and or father have regarding my marriage and my next steps? This person wanted to remain anonymous. And if you're listening and you're like, oh, I have questions about my marriage too. What will let you know if this is for you? I'm asking that because obviously the anonymous person's going to know it's for her, but for everyone else, I'm getting this thing about a pin dropping. Like, I guess if when I'm talking, there's this feeling of when you hear or see a pin drop, that quiet moment of like, you just feel it or you see it, and it's that small point of contact. If there's a small point of contact for you, then that lets you know that that's for you. And it might not be the whole message is for you. It might just be that small point of contact. Okay. All right, and I'm going to clarify for this listener that I feel like your dad is here, but he's not giving me information yet. So I'm going to start with your spirit guides, your soul guides. So sometimes in a relationship, it's not a decision point. This is a little bit kind of like it was for Candace. Like, whatever's happening, this is not a time for her to be like, this is what's happening next because of blah, blah, blah. Same in this scenario. This is not a decision time for this person. So first off, the next step is just to know that. The earliest it would be a decision time for this person, for this couple, is several months from now. Right now, more what is the case, and again, this was similar to Candace in some ways, is that you having attention on you, and also recalling what was evoked at the beginning of this call is this surrendering and feeling supported. So I get this sense of cozy, like you're wearing your cozy socks or a cozy sweater, and tending to your needs and finding the cozy moments. If there are cozy moments happening in your relationship, great. That's the kind of thing that you want to be almost like hyper fixating on and noticing and paying attention to. And if you can create more of those cozy moments, of those moments where, when I say cozy, to me, what it feels like is just two people hanging out in a relaxed way of mutual appreciation. It's not like hot, fiery passion. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Hey, if you got hot, fiery passion, you work that passion as long as it's going. I don't know how to lower my hand here. Oh, well. But it feels more like that relaxed, just amenable quality of being around with someone. Sometimes we're just in the same room looking at the fire, maybe, or you're enjoying a quiet meal, or you're enjoying a good meal and music is playing in the background. It feels like very low key, enjoyable interaction, focusing on that at the end of the day, paying attention to where you had those moments and really appreciating and valuing those. If you don't have a lot of moments like that occurring in your relationship, see if you can create some more, but also create those moments where you feel that in yourself, where you feel that sense of that you're just relaxed, you're okay, you're surrendering to the moment, you're feeling that it's not like life is super high or super low. You just have this mellow, low key kind of life is good satisfaction. Excuse me. One of the reasons why you want to do this is, even though culturally it feels like there's not a lot of this happening, December and January are great times, if you live in the Northern Hemisphere, to just go inward, to really, to in some ways retract from the rest of the world and like really tend to yourself, to your body, to your animal needs, to your soul, and any outside action. Like, you really only want to be doing these grand decisions and outside actions if you feel like, if it's so clear and if you're so called to do that. It's not the time for this person and their relationship, but it is the time to just get quiet and have these calmer moments, because there's just a lot happening in the world, and next year there might be a lot happening. And so it's kind of one of the things that the trees do in the wintertime is they're bolstering and growing their root system. That allows them the rest of the year to be really sturdy and strong through storms, to be really sturdy and strong through whatever life throws at them. And all of that happens below ground. It all happens unseen. And we live in a society that kind of values all the things you can see and all the things that are very outward. And yet, even if you don't always see visually the value of having quiet, mellow, peaceful, happy, calm times with yourself and or your partner or your closest friends, those are really deeply nourishing to your soul. So it feels like it's deeply restorative, much like a really healthy soup would be restorative, or something else that like gets to the bone and strengthens you. So focusing on that in this time is going to, yeah, this gives me chills, over the next 6 months to year after that, give you that strength because you poured into yourself now. And this pouring into yourself does not have to be a super active thing. We're not talking like spa days or like super like extroverted self-care. And I'm not saying you have to be an introvert if you're not an introvert, but it's that appreciation of just like the calm moments of life and sensual things like cozy socks or a good meal or music that you enjoy. Really tuning into that will really feed your soul and be really good for your nervous system too, so that when you do feel like, oh, maybe it's time to make some decisions, you're going to have this as your solid foundation to come back to. All right, let me see if there's anything else to say about that. Sense of, for this person specifically, but maybe others, like I see this thing of like white hot spikes that like go up of almost, and I don't know if that's passion or if it's like, oh, super crazy fight that feels like really dramatic, but it's only like a 20-minute fight and then the next day everything's fine. I'm getting the sense of like, don't be alarmed or pay too much attention to these white hot spikes. So it's like in this time right now, you're more paying attention to what I call the baseline, middle ground, rather than anything that feels like a super electric coming in flash of white hot spike of emotion. Those are and not to say, look, when it's decision time, you might then look back and be like, oh, we have these white hot spikes of fights every day, or, oh, there's white hot passion, but it only comes every other month. Like, you can evaluate those later, but right now, like, don't hyperfixate or get emotional about them. It's more like, don't put any more attention into them than they need for this time being. Okay. All right. Maybe somebody just came in. Hello, if you're here. Okay. So, okay. Okay. So, Patty Lee, I'm looking at your question, and if I'm going to read it out to you. Okay. Asking about the new Renaissance school run by Julia. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's fine. Would this be a good choice for me to support me as I start my business? It feels good. Just looking for anything I might have missed as I asked about this. Great. And if you want to ask, if there's anything else you want to say to the group, you can.
Yeah, you know, we talked about the zombie thing last time, and
Yes.
it's kind of an evolving way. I do have I bought a class from her to help me
Yes.
create my statement.
Mm.
And the unifying principle of all the different things that I do and offer. And so she does have a school. She's and there's like 15 or 20 ladies in the school, and they meet once a week and have classes and work on their websites or their presentation or their funnels or whatever it is that they're doing. And I'm kind of feeling like I need some support to kind of get the business off the ground. And this gives me a group of people that I've already met and kind of know what they're doing through the class I took. And it's not quite affordable. It's going to really squeak things, but that means it's not quite affordable if I don't build a business. It's also a way for me to put a bulldozer behind me and make me continue to do the things that I need to do. And so that really is what I'm looking at as this resource. And she's been working with spiritual entrepreneurs on marketing and their message for 25 years. So she's got some experience, and I just want to make sure I've done everything I know to do. I just want somebody else to look at it and make sure the fit is going to be appropriate for a year, because it's a year program.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Let me look into that. Thank you for asking. So I'm going to share what I'm getting first and then see what else there is. So when you asked immediately, I got this. And then again, as I close my eyes, I got this. I get the sense of something about this that I don't think we see right now. I get this feeling of constriction around your throat and a shriveling up. And then they're giving me the words of like, it's clamping down your voice. And I know that your experience of it sounds like that you're sharing is that the plan of this is that it's helping, it's projecting, it's supposed to get you more out there and have a clear statement or mission or website, all those things, and that you like some of the people in there. But what I see is that in it will actually constrict your voice and make it, I don't know, it just feels like literally this shriveling up, and they show me a snake throat. So almost like I don't know if it's like the snake is where your energy was and it's all constricted kind of in a snake shape. Okay. So that may not be what you wanted to hear, but I'm gonna look into whatever
wanna-
else there is.
I want to hear what you have to say. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
My reaction doesn't matter.
I know. Ah. And this whole thing, even though some people might like the fact that it's a year, there's something about a year that it feels like you would want to be out of it before a year is up, but then there's a part of you that would want to stay. There's something also about the time frame that doesn't feel energetically great for you. Okay, let me see what else. I'm going to speak about sometimes the things I get. I'm like, I have no idea how this is helpful at all, but I'll start talking and we'll see where it goes. So when I ask, is there another option that's better for you? I get the sense of other people perhaps helping you drum up support. They show me metal being banged on, and then they show me a tin man. So I don't know if there's any person that you follow who reminds you of the Tin Man in one way or another. And also sometimes the way my gift works is like, how do I put it? I love when it's very clear. Like I feel like earlier, I don't know if you were here, but for Lizelle, this wobbly bookcase, even though that might sound random, like metaphorically, symbolically, it worked. I don't know about this Tin Man yet, but it's reminding me, like, I would say when we're done, go Google the name of the Tin Man and in the Wizard of Oz and see, yeah, that's giving me tingles. Is there somebody with that actor's name who's in the spiritual community, and it might be the first name or it might be the last name, that you have a good connection to? Something also about the Tin Man with like the heart. And it might also be this metal, like if you're into Chinese medicine and all that, that might give you some kind of lead for this. But what else was I going to say about the Tin Man and researching? I get the frame, the idea that a time frame for you, a 6-month time frame is going to feel better than 1 year. So that may also be a guideline when looking at things. And yeah, that's what I've got for right now. Looking, as you're looking, as I said, look for somebody who has a name like the Tin Man from the Wizard of Oz. Now I'm sure there's a few Wizard of Oz movies, so you look at the one that you connect with the most. Also, if there's something about this whole Tin Man, like what do you think of when you think of the Tin Man? Like I know there's the If I Only Had a Heart. You're the one who's bringing the heart to what you do. But is there something about the structure that this Tin Man has that adds on to what you're doing and still lets you project your voice out there and gives you that total freedom of showing up in this really gifted way? I know there was one other question that was submitted beforehand that I also want to get to. So what I might do is,
Can I
is
ask
that
you one
okay?
thing? Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
The snake thing and the restriction in my voice, is that right away or is that over time?
Oh yeah, good question. It feels like within 3 weeks. And then also I get this sense of like either like a hammer tapping or like water dripping. It almost feels like then it's almost a subtle like wearing away
Okay.
that you might not notice it because it's like
Gradual.
water dripping wears away at the stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patty Lee. Okay. So I'm gonna double check the chat. I know I'm gonna do a general reading for Lily and so I'm gonna look at so doing this general reading for Lily. The first thing I'm getting is it feels like this is a time of so much, what just feels like external expression of what you're feeling. It may be to the people you're feeling it towards, or it might just be something that you want to be doing in private, kind of like we talked before, like you find your time every day to like go feel your emotions and see how you're feeling. Because it feels some of the time it's like a throwing up of like a disgust or purging, like let me get this out of me. Other days it's like anger and shouting and yelling. And then other days it's a different emotion. It might be sadness, it might be disappointment. Honoring and acknowledging that it's okay if it feels like your emotions are all over the place, and like from yesterday to the next day to Friday to next Tuesday, you might feel like you've experienced 18 different things and had 18 different points of view, and they were all big emotional outward expressions of like, "Bah." That's okay. Okay. This is a recalibrating for yourself of how do you let yourself be who you are, express who you are, feel the range of emotion. In some ways, because you just had to get through certain things that you got through, you didn't feel all the highs and the lows. So now it kind of feels like, oh my gosh, this phrase. They're giving me emotional expression boot camp. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this is so intense, you're just going through an emotional expression boot camp. It's okay if it feels intense. It's okay if you feel a little bit exhausted. If you're not going crazy, I will say that. Like, and if you need to play this again once a day to hear me say you're not going crazy, that's totally fine. You're not going crazy. This is emotional expression boot camp. You're letting yourself feel all of those emotions, the whole range. It does feel like there's a range. It does feel like they're very outwardly, vocally expressive. And it gives me goosebumps. It feels like this is you reclaiming your power, reclaiming your voice, reclaiming your energy. And oh, this makes me almost emotional. Also, a way, it's not just reclaiming, but it's kind of like with who you are now, it feels a little bit like you're experimenting with how does it feel to feel an emotion, and how do you show up as the woman who you are now, who, like, how do I put this? A lot of people would say like, oh, when you're angry, you're just angry and you just react. But some of this emotional expression boot camp is you feeling the emotion to then have a part of you being like, that's how I reacted when I was angry. Is that how I want to be when I'm angry? Or do you want to express it in another way? So some of this is also experimentation. One of the reasons I've never done fitness boot camp, so I'm just winging it here. But what I imagine is one of the things people get out of it sometimes is it's like, oh, you learn, hey, I really don't like push-ups, but I really love burpee squat things. And then they're like, cool, now I know because I did the boot camp. That's what it feels like too, with all of these emotions that you're expressing and letting yourself feel every day. It's also an experimentation for how do you, as who you are right now, how do you express anger? How do you express disgust? And if you don't like how you express it the one day, that's okay. You can modify and realize, okay, this is how I feel. But again, it does feel similar to a boot camp experience in that it's kind of intense. It's a short period of time that there's a lot of different things happening. And it's like exercise for your emotions, exercise for your soul. It's you're not going crazy. I already said that a few times, but it's gonna be a lot. And at the end of this boot camp, I don't know, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're gonna feel, it's gonna feel really good because there's some things that you needed to express. So it's gonna be like, to me, again, I haven't done this boot camp, but what I'm feeling is how I imagine it. If somebody did a 3-week boot camp, at the end of it, they feel stronger. There's muscles they didn't know that they had. There's ways that you can move your body that at the beginning of the 3 weeks you couldn't. That's how it feels for you internally, energetically. At the end of this 3 weeks, it feels like your body feels flexible, feels nimble. You're ready to respond to what's in front of you. That may also motivate you to get through this time, which may feel a little bit bad some days, is knowing, look, at the end of this 3 weeks, you're gonna be like that champion who trained for 3 weeks to be able to handle something physically, to be able to meet, what's coming up. So I commend you for doing the boot camp, for getting through it, for all of the emotions that are coming up. And I'll see in the chat if there's any comments. Yeah, and unless there's a comment or question about that, I will go. Oh yeah, Kimberly, general reading for you. I'm just seeing this now. Yeah, I'm gonna be quick. I'll finish up with you. Okay. All right, Kimberly. I get the sense you're at the garden gate, and on the hill, it's the sound of music. On the hills I love the sound of music. But you're at the garden gate. I get the feeling you're not quite sure. Do you want to go to the hills? To feel the sound of music, to sing the sound of music. You're not really sure. And I feel some of this unsureness, uncertainty is related to, are you worth it? Do you deserve it? Can you handle it? The answer to that is you're allowed to have your bread with butter. You're allowed to be feeling joyful. You're allowed to sing on the hills. You're allowed to take that. You also may have to teach yourself, if you don't feel worthy, if you don't feel deserving, if you don't feel like you're allowed to go sing joyously on the hills, literally or metaphorically, you may have to teach yourself how to do that in small ways. This is making me emotional. And it might be something as simple as butter on your bread. Thank you, Candace. Butter on your bread might sound kind of basic, but it's like I've noticed there's sometimes where I'll eat bread or eat a potato, baked potato, and I don't put butter because I'm like, well, do I really need those extra calories? And it still tastes pretty good, so I'll just eat it. But then the days when I put the butter on my baked potato or I put the butter on my bread, every mouthful is so good. And I'm just like, this is the good stuff. So you may want to start training yourself in small little ways to let in the goodness, because there's been enough times where it wasn't allowed in, or you were on a restrictive diet. That may be a metaphor, or a restrictive, I need to do certain things so that certain things can happen, and butter's not a part of that. Well, you've done enough of that restrictive things, and it's time to let you have some honey in your tea, let you have some butter on your bread. Give yourself some of those small, tangible sensory pleasures that are for you, so that you can, sorry, I was realizing I'm almost out of time, so that you can let yourself enjoy, let yourself feel worthy, let yourself deserving. Oh, good. I'm glad that makes sense. And again, I may have not said this yet, but you don't have to go to the hill. You don't have to walk through the garden gate. You don't have to sing a song if you don't want to. You're allowed to still stay where you are. But I feel that you want to go through the garden gate, or you see it and you think, well, can I? And so putting this butter on your bread, giving yourself these small moments, is this way of reteaching yourself, retraining yourself. Oh yeah, I can have these moments of pleasure. I can have these moments of delight. I can have all of this goodness. And it could start small, and then it can feel totally exuberant and wonderful and alive. Okay, I would love to continue to elaborate, and we're out of time. Thank you so much for being here with us all. Thank you for loving yourself, believing in yourself. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, everyone who stayed in this time and who's here watching the replay. Sending you all the love and encouragement, and I hope you have wonderful holidays. You're welcome to come next month when I do this. I'll let you know as soon as the date's decided, and you're also invited to invite a friend or someone who you know who would benefit. And last but not least, you can also book a private session with me, or I have packages where you can work with me for 3 months at a time or 1 year at a time. When I send out the replay, I'll send those out. Many blessings to you. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Okay. Let's make sure I got all the chat. Okay.